What is up, my ducks and drakes? Welcome to the Crowded Lake. Today we are reading Trip Down Memory Lane, a sanitized fanfiction by me. Trigger warnings today include harmful thoughts, cursing, suicide and vomit in Chapter 7, suicide and panic attacks in Chapter 8, mentions of religion and mentions of gore in Chapter 10, and blood in Chapter 11. If any of these make you feel uncomfortable, please click off now. Stay safe. One thing I'd like to mention before we move on is I made a book list of all of my Wattpad read alouds that I have read on my Wattpad. The link to that will be in the description below. With that being said, on with the book. What Could Have Been Done, Chapter 7, Deceit's Point of View. I was walking back to Patton's room to nag at him a bit more. I can't only do it once. The Duke might have been done with him, but that doesn't mean that I sure can be. As I was walking down the hall from the dark side of the mine to the light side, I slowly felt myself getting warmer from the heat of the mine palace that I was not used to. Since there was really no source of light or heat in the dark side of the mine palace, we either had to be under multiple thick blankets or heating pads, wear layers of thick clothing, or freeze to our inevitable death. I was about to knock on the door when I realized that it was sunrise and Patton was probably asleep and wouldn't answer the door. Even when the father figure was troubled, he seemed to always be snoozing his life away when the sun came up shining to welcome the day. I then decided to let myself in so that I could have a chat with him one last time before the others kicked me out of his room. Having to stay in the dreary, cold, damp, depressing part of the mine where I stay the day in and day out is hard, and even if I need to bring someone down to get here, I will get just a bit of warmth. Snakes are cold-blooded, and when I stay in the cold environment for too long, I start to get pretty ill. I would appreciate not dying within the next couple of years or so. When I opened the door, I didn't know what to think or do. I saw Patton sitting on the ledge of the balcony that was just over the large black hole. He was crying, and I had no idea how to help. His skin was paler than a ghost, and his quaking chest heaving up and down. I thought at first that he was sitting on the barrier to get a view of the sunrise, but then I heard whisper counting. He shifted his shaking hands and arms to a backwards position, lifting his body up and forward slightly as he was flying over the black hole below him. I sprinted towards him. I had nothing else on my mind except for the fact that I need to grab Patton before it's too late. My face got hot and my chest burned from running, and the pure thought that whether he lives or dies right now is in my cold hands. I made it to the ledge and reached out my arms over right as he said 3. My arms brushed against his shoulder. I made it in time, but not quite. I failed him. I failed the others. I failed Thomas. All my body did was reach over the side and grasp for him to come here like a toddler in someone else's arms waiting for their dad. I sobbed over the balcony, asking myself if I was the one who caused him to jump. Am I really that evil? I just wanted people to notice me and accept me as a part of the group. I didn't want to be a straight-up murderer. I watched as Patton fell into the black hole. He was holding what looked like a shiny book of some sort, right before he disappeared from sight. We met each other's eyes, and a million words were exchanged through one glance of a sorry snake and a depressed dad. I decided to stay on the balcony for a bit longer and stare at the black hole. I don't know why I chose to do that instead of going about my day. Was it because I felt sorry? Is it because I thought that he'd come back from the hole? At this point, I don't give a fuck. Maybe it may be better off if I jump and join him. I'll already be dead when the others find out that I'm the one that let him die. I sat and sunk out to my bed, where I took my gloves off to reveal my hands that were out of the ordinary. Instead of my fingers being, fingers, some of my fingers looked like the end of a snake's tail. I stare at the scales at my hands, sort of while before I run back to the bathroom and throw up. Anytime I get overwhelmed, I throw my guts out. You would think that this would be a Patton sort of thing. Speaking of Patton, apparently everyone now knows of Patton's absence. The Duke came through my toilet to tell me the news. "Hey, Snaky, have you heard the goody is dead?" Remus said with a wickedly happy grin. "I wish I would have been the one to kill him off." Sadly, he had to do it to himself. I thought in my head about what could have been done in a situation like this. I can't just go off telling him that I was the one to kick his bucket. He would tell everyone, and I would never be forgiven. Hey, scratch face, Remus said while breaking me out of my thoughts. You want to go down to the crime scene with me? Without any hesitation, I had my reply in place. That would not be necessary, do. We can't rip what has already been torn. He sat with his chin resting in his hand, and he was thinking of what to say next. We wouldn't be shredding it, though. It's an iron bar that can only be cracked by a depressive dilemma that doesn't get destroyed by devilish deeds. I was about to comment on how intelligent the statement was, but the Duke had other plans in his rotten brain of his. Looks like I have to myself too many D's, huh, D? Then he crackled away like someone just didn't take their own life. Fine, I said as confidently as I could. We could go down to his room. The dark Luigi got too excited for his own good and started me pulling my arm towards the door. If, I say as he paused where he stood on my carpeted flooring. If what? There should not even be an if to begin with, the Duke whined, but I stood firm. We could only go down to Patton's room if you promised to not make this any harder on anyone than it already is. This is not just a small dilemma. Thomas literally just lost his sense of right and wrong. You could be a bit more sympathetic. Remus groaned and agreed. Why did he even jump? Why did he think of jumping? Did he take a second to think of the consequences it has on Thomas if he wipes himself out of the picture? Was I a part of the problem? Was there something that I could have done? What could have been done? Chapter 8. The Break. Logan's Point of View. I woke up bright and early to the morning sun which greeted the day. I went downstairs to make my morning cup of joe. I like my coffee like Virgil likes his soul. Black. I wonder if that's technically a pun or not. Would Patton be proud of me for making a pun, or would he be mad at me for being mean to Virgil? When he wakes, I'll go ask him. I go to my room and start my work. Since my room is right next to Patton's, and the wall is very thin, I hear almost everything slightly loud coming from his side, including his alarm clock, and so when it went off at 8:30, I was surprised to hear the beeping go off from his bedroom. The only difference with this day was that it never stopped. Patton always jumped up to hit snooze so that he wouldn't disturb me, but today it kept beeping. It kept going. I was very annoyed, but also concerned. Unless he was deaf, he would have heard the growing noise of his alarm by now. I decided to go check on Patton and turn off his dang alarm. Walking outside my door and into his, the alarm got 3 times louder. The alarm must have had so much of an impact that it woke Roman and Virgil, because they were heading towards the door too. I opened the door and walked up in a hesitant headache machine. I politely turned the switch off and rubbed my eyes tiredly. I needed to check on Patton. I looked over to his bed and then I saw it. Nothing was there. I looked over to his desk to see if he had left a note saying that he went berry picking, but I found something much worse. There were words that I couldn't comprehend, simple in vocabulary, still the hardest piece of literature my eyes had ever laid on. I broke out crying, something I didn't normally do, and I immediately got the other two's reactions and attentions. Roman came up and gave me a hug from behind, reading the note. He tried to hold in tears, but I could still see a single tear coming from his eye. Virgil then came up to us. What's going on? Are you guys okay? This isn't really normal. I started to panic. Virgil would be swarmed with the darkness if he found out that Patton was gone. Let me talk to Roman in the bathroom for a second, and I'll get back to you. I pulled Roman into Patton's bathroom and talked to him. We tried comforting each other while crying into each other's shoulders. I looked in the cabinet and found a bottle of different antidepressants. A new bottle, in fact. He probably just got them yesterday. There's only 1 pill left in the bottle. If Patton didn't kill himself, he would have probably died anyway from overdose. We're going to tell Virgil. He will blame himself, and this will be a wreck for the rest of his existence. I nodded, even though I already figured everything that Roman said. We need to tell the truth. It is going to hurt him, but we can't lie to him. He will figure it out eventually, and then he will also get mad at us for lying. All we really can do is sit him down and try to say it to him and keep him from panicking. The stress will harm Thomas if Virgil isn't watched for the next couple weeks. Roman interrupted me. How will Thomas live without morality? It is not like he can give one of us his place. I'm pretty sure he left something in his letter about it, but I know Roman read it. But then I figured that he probably only read his part of the letter before he stopped reading. He left the parts of him that Thomas needs in a glowing light blue and purple jar. I pointed the jar outside the door. We see Virgil looking through Tumblr on his phone, not knowing what is going to hit him. I nodded my head at Roman, and we walked to the bed and sat on there. Virgil looked confused and worried. We usually do not need to talk alone before getting his attention. How are you doing today, Virgil? He looked up and answered with a squeak, leaving his trembling lip. Pretty well. How are you? He was like a puppy, like when Patton made faces like that to get to us when he wanted something. It always worked. Well, Black Skellington. He took a pause and took a breath. Logan needs to tell you something. He pointed at me with gun fingers, and I panicked. I thought we were doing this together. I can't do this on my own. Virgil kept looking between us in frantic panic. Roman went to calm him down, as I went into my mental mind space to calm myself down. Once I was done, Virgil was casually talking to Roman like nothing had happened, so I took another seat. You sure you're okay, Logan? You seem to have been over there crying for the last 30 minutes, and your eyes are extremely red. I was simply tired, but I wasn't going to tell them that. I am fine and well, Virgil, but Roman and I both need to talk to you. Together. Roman nodded, looking into my eyes with rapid alarmed expression. Patton. Roman trailed off. He clearly wasn't going to get himself to finish the sentence, so I had to. Feelings. Disgusting. Patton won't be coming back. Virgil started violently shaking as tears welled up in his widening eyes. He started closing in on himself as he pulled up his hood. His breathing wasn't exactly helping either. What do you mean? I took a deep breath. Patton. Patton what? Virgil couldn't wait another second for an explanation. Patton, his physical form at least, died. Virgil was shocked by this answer and stood right up and started pacing back and forth. When did this happen? Why did this happen? He stopped thinking aloud to himself when he looked right into my eyes. Who did this? I don't know how to respond again, so I took another deep breath and gave him a simple answer. Patton. Patton what? You need to learn to finish your sentences, Logan. Virgil. This will be hard to accept, and of course this will not be easy, but that was the end of my sentence. Patton. Patton killed Patton. He went off the balcony. Virgil started shaking more than a kernel of popcorn in a kettle. I took an attempt to calm him down. I conjured up a droplet with the scent of lavender. I put it on his hand, but all he did was flinch as his breathing kept quickening. I got this, Roman says as I stepped back and let Roman do his thing. He conjured up Virgil's favorite for purple and black blanket and a stuffed giraffe, purple and black fidget cube, and a noisemaker. Hey, Virgil, it is okay. Can you take deep breaths for me? Virgil blinked twice. Roman kept talking. We're going to breathe like we always do, okay? And for 7. Virgil only did before needing to breathe back out. Roman kept doing it while having his hand over his stomach as a demonstration. After a couple minutes, Virgil slowed his breathing. But all of that was for nothing when Deceit and Remus walked in. The Road, Chapter 9, Patton's Point of View. I kept falling and all my surroundings got darker and darker. Why was I still breathing? Why am I still falling? Why must this cruel world keep me alive? My past is probably playing tricks on me. It's making me fall longer so that I regret jumping right before I hit the floor and my face met cruel death. I could not believe that out of everyone that could have watched me fall or tried to even save me, it would have been Deceit. He always stopped by at night and pestered me. How long was he standing there watching me? Why did he care? All I did was shun him for being what he was and instilled in Thomas to be, and he tried to save me. The air gets colder as I keep falling. I'm starting to wish that I put on my cardigan before jumping. I could have used the warmth, and as a hug around me, a gentle reminder that things will be okay, except I know they won't be okay. I'm going to die. Roman's going to blame himself. Virgil's going to be giving Thomas a panic attack big enough to knock him out, and Logan is going to be there not knowing what to do. Logan feels emotions, though it is something he hates to admit. He is most likely trying hard to hide his tears from the other two, or maybe he's being open. What if the event changed them all? What if they hate me now because I let them down? I let them down so bad. I was so selfish. I openly sobbed as I hit something. It didn't kill me, but I was able to stand and walk. Why couldn't it kill me? How I wanted it to kill me so. I lied on the ground for a while, just staring up at the dark sky, with only a speck of light being shown from the top. The seat reached for me. He wanted me to live. The person who has always been messing with me since the others had shown up and tried to save me from myself. I really cannot help but think of how the others are reacting. Roman is up there blaming himself to the harmful extent. Virgil's, I could tell, is giving Thomas a panic attack, the clouds above the Mind Palace say. Logan is trying to control the other two, while he can't even control himself. The seed's most likely. I don't even know. I sit there longer, staring at the light, until I turn onto my side and see another light. I first think of it as the way I came, but then I quickly realized that I came from the one above me. This was down the way. I tried to sit up, ignoring the awful headache that was booming through my head and into my eyes. If it really was that hard to try to sit up, how will I ever get back on my feet? Even if I can get back on my feet, how will I even try? Walking is better than slowly crawling to the light. I don't even know how far it is from here. I placed my knees and feet on the ground, as if I was going to start a crawl, and then I straightened my legs. My legs did ache, but I didn't want to fall, so I stuck through it. I balanced myself, and I stood up. My knees were throbbing with intensity, but I took my first step. I was extremely dizzy and I could not feel my legs, but I found myself running. My legs were taking me as fast as I could go towards the light, and I had no control over the whole situation. I got closer and closer to the light until I felt it like I was in it. My eyes were burning in the sun intensity, and I closed them firmly. I started to get warm. Not warm as in hot, but warm as in out in the sun. I opened my eyes and discovered a big field with blooming daisies and lilies, along with buzzing insects zipping about, and trees covering the horizon line. The only thing that seemed human-made was a wide white brick road leading through the field and onwards so far that you couldn't even see how far it went. Not knowing what else to do, I started walking down the trail, except when I walked down, the white road turned light blue. It was like my footsteps were splashes of color booming onto the path ahead. The harder I landed, the bigger the splash. With little tiptoes, the color circles got smaller. After walking for about what seemed all day, the path ahead of me started to get darker. The sun was completely up in the sky as if it was noon. I had gotten myself so tired from jumping around, though, so I decided to sit down on the plush, vibrant grass and take a break before walking. The grass below me was like silk, brushing against his skin like a gentle touch. I then decided to just lie down and look at the sky. The grass tickled my face, and it was like a kiss on my cheek. The sky may have been dark gray, but the clouds were still bright and visible. I had made shapes out of them. One cloud looked like it had 8 thinner clouds coming out of it, almost like a spider, but it wasn't the only reminder of his dark, strange sun. There was another one with a round bottom and points like the top of a crown. Roman always put it on to feel better, to feel stronger. Was he wearing it right now? There was also a cloud that was in the shape of an upside-down U, which reminded me a lot of the Yerkes-Dawson curve and that Logan had demonstrated. It could have taken the sadness he must have been feeling now that I'm gone. Then a bit on the left of all those clouds, there were 2 clouds all by themselves. One, though, shaped like a mustache, and a long squiggly line. like a snake. I then felt a lump in my throat as I continued to bawl my eyes out. My eyes got heavy, and I let my weak body and hefty eyes take over my consciousness as I let them drift off the dreamland, where visions of everyone I love, jumping off the balcony, await me. Chapter 10. Distant Past. Patton's Point of View. I woke up blinking my eyes rapidly to adjust to the newly found sunlight. It was clearly the day. The sun reminded me of the times I would put on the dim desk lamp next to Virgil's bed to gently wake him up. If I didn't wake him up, he'd usually sleep all day. Now that he knows I'm gone, it would be a shock if he even left his room. Or maybe not. Maybe they're glad I'm gone. Maybe all they need is my morality essence. What if I'm just a burden, always getting into other people's business and always getting people to share their feelings when I can never find the strength and heart to share mine? I stare up at the sky once more, trying to process my thoughts, when my stomach decides it should become a Bluetooth speaker. I wouldn't be surprised Remus swallowed a speaker before, so he could be the life of the party. One time during a storm, he swallowed a flashlight. Then when the power went out, everyone was looking for it. But Remus just bounced a little, and he started glowing. I am not too concerned about Remus, though. He never had a connection with me, and he loves this kind of death stuff. But then again, I thought roughly the same about Deceit, and we all know how that turned out. My stomach rumbles again. I sit up, everything around me spinning a bit, and I notice an apple tree in the distance. I stand up and slowly start wobbling towards it. Between being sleepy and everything hurting, it was extremely hard to walk. After humming Other Friends from Steven Universe the movie, I got myself to the tree. I got to get an apple, but then Remus shows up. I get excited and run towards him like a giant hug. Maybe I was wrong, and Remus, just Deceit, actually liked me. He came to me. I got to give him a hug, but my body slips right through him. It shows Remus singing the song Forbidden Fruit. It was so much fun to make that episode. Then, other Remus and Deceit related things pop up. I think they are holograms, but I'm not sure. They all show things that happened in the past relating to the story of Adam and Eve. I remember then that this is memory lane. I got to go back and take a fruit, but I am pushed back from the scene by some kind of force. I try walking up to grab the apple again, but I'm pushed away once more. No worries. Decided to have lots of memories surrounding food. I look up at the sky once again. Like yesterday, it seemed dark. I then realized that all these memories surrounding the tree were from Deceit and Remus. These must have been dark side memories. I look around, most of them either in colors of blue, red, gray, or black. Everything seems to be smoky, almost like fog. I could see a clear line deciding the lines between Remus and Deceit's memories. I started walking toward Remus's section, specifically walking towards his childhood memories, then to move up, for now. As I walked to the start of his trail, I wonder why it's showing the side's memories and not Thomas's. This is Thomas's memory lane, after all. Maybe it is because our memories affect the way Thomas acts and feels at the time? I honestly have no clue, although by the time I am just getting wrapped up into my own questions and thoughts, I arrive at the insane past that is the Duke himself, Remus. I start walking down the path. Green fog arises from nowhere. I see the first memory in the line. Remus was separated from a single creativity. Roman is sitting at his work desk trying to come up with a good story for some story time, and Remus fell into the trash can. I remember before we looked at him, we thought Remus was an imaginary friend. Turned out he was real. I traveled down the lane. Remus and Roman are teenagers arguing on whether or not to add a gory scene to a fanfiction that the two have been working on for ages. It was quite a show watching them listen and argue, even though I usually had to stop them before they brought out weapons. Then as I kept walking down darker, fading trail, the wind picks up at the point like a pack of wolves howling. I see in the distance a memory that is all white light. It was like a YouTube video with extremely good camera quality, and the settings knocked up to 4K. This memory is most likely important because it is highlighted, like you would highlight important information in reading classes. It was late night. Remus, around the age of 14, went to the kitchen to grab some peanut butter. From what I know, Remus didn't like the creamy substance, so I had no clue why he was going to get it or what he was going to do with it. He walks down past Roman in a shared room. even the border of the light side and dark side mind. He walks all the way down to the end of the hallway, where he knocks on Deceit's door. The lights are off, but you can clearly see a glowing yellow eye, radiant against the black background. It then cuts to the next morning. It looks like Remus is getting up the courage to tell Roman something. Back in the day, the twins were best of friends. I have never seen them apart. They drifted apart, though, after a second, though. I think this may be why.
Roman?
Remus trails off with Roman nodding as a reply while working on a sword that he got an idea from in a dream.
Just a question. Why doesn't Patton like me?
This clearly disturbs Roman as he turns from his work to face Remus. Patton loves you. He is our dad, and you're one of his kiddos. Remus starts building up tears in his eyes.
Have you not realized?
Every time I bring up an idea, Patton objects it. Every time I do or make something that I'm proud of, Patton takes not a second to tell me that what I'm doing is wrong. He constantly praises you and tells me to be more like you. We are both creativity. You think that we would be close enough? Roman looks sympathetic in his own prince way. Patton is trying to look after Thomas. He doesn't want me to be me. Remus is quick to interrupt Roman. Been hurt by Patton more than anyone that has done but do their jobs in Thomas, the dark people down the hallway. Roman starts getting defensive and stands up. Patton told us not to go down there.
Patton this, Patton that. He has been trying to hide us from people just because they were doing what they were supposed to do in Thomas. They have no warmth on the other side. They don't have good food either. They have scraps from our meals and what I bring them at night. One of them goes by Paranoia. I haven't seen his face yet, but he is scared of Patton. Then there's one that's half snake. His name is Deceit. He told me that they were sent to the other side of the Mind Palace after being accepted as Patton by his best friend, only to be pushed away after existing in Thomas, making him worry, making him lie. Those are things normal humans do. Patton just wants Thomas to be a perfect person when perfect people don't exist. And as Thomas's main ego, you feed into that. Now just like Patton throwing them out, he will throw me out. Is that what you want? To lose me? To never see me again? Because I stopped Thomas from being perfect? Roman was dead silent, shaking slightly. That is what I thought.
Remus cautiously took a breath, walking into the bathroom, and flushed himself down the toilet. It then cuts to a shot not like another full scene, but more like a clip show of me kicking Remus out and giving Thomas thoughts on bringing a gun to school and killing his bully. I remember that now, clear as day. How could I do that to him? He was only doing his job, yet I turn around and criminalize him for being himself? No wonder Deceit hated me. I started bawling my eyes out again, looking down and getting out of Remus's memory, wrote as fast as I could, a sob, and lay down. And I watched the clouds once again as I got out of the space. I then drift off to sleep in the nice, plush grass. Abandonment fills my memories and nightmares. Chapter 11. Keep calm and carry on. Deceit's point of view. I opened the door of the room, flipping my cape as to seem more dramatic and put together. All the other sides look up. I could tell that Virgil had literally just calmed down. My presence only made him shake again. Logan nodded at Roman as the prince side tried to wipe tears as he pulled out his sword. Logan snapped and came back with some anxiety meds. Logan helped me make them when Virg was just a lad. He would get such large attacks when Thomas was in middle school that he would start fading away. We knew he couldn't take human meds because that would hurt him even more. But we knew we had to do something. That led us to working together all night to make those for Virgil. My thoughts almost distracted me from an emotionally stressed Roman standing in front of us two. Remus whipped out his morning star, but I took it from him and slid it under my cape back to my room. Deceit! We do not need you here. Can you not see that we are struggling enough? The prince broke out into an open sob that, as much as he wanted to hold back, could not. I wanted to join him and cry, but Remus was right here, and I would never let live it down if he saw me get emotional.
We are not here to distress.
Ruben looked up, sniffling.
Quit lying, you slimy snake.
You were always here to hurt, and I bet if it wasn't for the fact that we needed him, you would have been the one to kill off Patton before Patton got a chance to do it himself. That broke me. My human eye started to tear up, but I was able to keep back the tears in that one eye. But my snake half is a different story. Droplets of blood started running from it as if my human half of my face went red. Rumor went from unsteadily on guard to broken, shamed, and understanding. I could see right through his eyes. Remus was still behind me, though, through all of this. He was just looking in between Virgil, Roman, and me, then back again. There was not a sign of a tear. In fact, he was smiling, and Roman was the first to make a verbal note of that. Why are you smiling? Do you really get that much joy out of seeing other people suffer? They cannot even mourn the loss of Patton. Remus looked into Roman's eyes and gave him the most serious statement I'd ever seen or even heard the skunk give.
It is not my fault. I was born the evil twin. I feed off this. When everyone hides their emotions, I go hungry. I know that they feel bad, but because it is not openly expressed, the mind can't count it, so I go cold and starving. I will miss Patton as much as any other side. I may have not been the most nice person to him, but I am not instilled in Thomas to be that way. Since everyone is mourning his loss, this is the most warmth I have felt. This is the most I've ever been fed. I know it is wrong, but I am finally not hungry anymore, or at least for a while. So it is natural for my face to smile. It would be like you haven't sang in 15 years, then you got the star in Hamilton. Roman's face went blank and his chest heaved faster and faster. Virgil seemed well enough to walk and listen because both Logan and Virgil came from behind Roman and looked right at Remus with a surprised kind of look. Need to assist you with anything, Deceit? I find it concerning that your eye is bleeding. Logan asked with the most emotion I've ever heard come out of the robot voice. I am fine, Logan, but I think we need to take care of these three while we figure out what to do. Remus and Roman looked up, seeming to have them same thoughts running through their heads. I don't need to be taken care of, Roman yelled as he stormed out of the room, pushing his brother aside. Remus would most likely have clunked him in the head if it wasn't for his limited strength. And I'm fine. Remus turned around and disappeared into the darkness of the mind. Virgil fell to the ground. Both Logan and Deceit rushed down to help him. Virgil, can you see and hear me? Virgil was fading and unfading as his chest went faster up and down like a ladybug's wings at flight. He was shaking more than a Marcana on steroids. Then, from under his wide and distressed eyes, I saw dark black ink like tears rushed down his face like a waterfall. Logan tried every method to help that he has been trained to do over the last couple of years. He even tried breathing exercises, but Virgil never made it past 2.5. He then tried the 5 things you could see technique, but he couldn't even talk. Logan pulled out different scents of lavender and white noise machines, but it only seemed to overwhelm Virgil, making his state worse. Now it almost seemed as if Virgil was glitching. Logan had tried to do back circles, but the contact would probably make matters worse. At this point, we had no idea what to do. I was too scared to do anything because usually just my presence scared him. I would not be much of a help, so I stood there just watching helplessly as Logan lied on the ground, slowly fading and glitching away. If Patton was here, he would know what to do. Patton always knew how to comfort Virgil. I don't know if this was true, but from what I know, Patton even helped Virgil through something similar to this right after he left me. I was sitting there just staring and thinking until Logan handed me a list of things to get. We needed to bring as much comforting things as possible to him. Since we couldn't move him or get him to his bed without freaking him out more, I quickly took the list and left the room to go search. I knew I needed to help Virgil, no matter what happens. Chapter 12. Go Fetch. Deceit's Point of View. I look down at the list as I leave the room, going right to Virgil, as that is where everything on the list was.
I stopped in front of the door, trying to remember the last time I came in here. Virgil was only in his teens. I took a deep breath, making my stomach shake, and opened the door. The cold from the room hit me like a brick, making me shiver before I wrapped my cape around me even tighter. Their dark side of the mind was cold, but it was almost disturbing to feel how freezing it was in his room. With the sides, their emotions usually connect to how cold or warm their room is. I started thinking, Patton's room was at least 75 degrees. Was he okay? Sadly, no. I saw him jump. He saw me look down at him. As much as it will take me to come to terms with it, I watched him. I know he is dead. The first thing on the list were the thing from Virgil's bed. I suppose to grab his blanket, his pillow, and a stuffed giraffe. I walk over to the bed, too distressed to notice anything. I grab my pillow with some embroidering from Logan. Supposedly the pillow that Logan told me to get Virgil he got him for Christmas, with calming scents and sounds that blow softly through the surface. The pillow was one thing, but the blanket and the stuffed animal were the things that caught me off guard. I was told to grab his baby blanket. His baby blanket was still the one I made him when I found Virgil. He was in the dark side of the mind. We don't have much heat or blankets, so I made him a blanket from my first cape. I have had the cape since I first appeared, but I sewed it into a blanket for Virgil. Then there was his stuffed giraffe. I also made that for him. Virgil always was too scared to go to sleep alone. But as the quote-unquote parental figure of the dark side of the mind, I knew that having a kid get used to sleeping with an adult is unhealthy. So I risked my being to get him that. Roman and Virgil were both around the age of 4 at the time. Roman had too deep of a heap of stuffed animals. Animals, or otherwise, I suppose. In his pile, what was the surface he usually played with the most, and the ones in the back he rarely looked at. So I reached all the way into the back corner and grabbed a flimsy giraffe. There was multiple stitching flaws with it, but I knew it was perfect. I fixed it up and gave it to Virgil as a birthday gift. He stopped sleeping with me, but he was never able to sleep without the darn thing ever since. I had no idea whatsoever that he still needed it, even to this day. I grabbed the 3 items and looked back at the list. It said to go over to Virgil's desk and grab a purple and blue music box. I went over to the box and looked at it closely. I wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything dangerous in it, just in case. So I opened it up. Inside were 2 different sections of Polaroid pictures. One side had pictures of Thomas and Thomas's friends. The other side had pictures of Virgil and his friends. Right onto was a picture of Virgil, Patton, Logan, and Roman counting down for the new year. You could so tell that Virgil and Roman were smashed. I kept looking through the stacks of pictures to find that at the bottom there were still some older pictures of Virgil, Remus, Elliot, and me. It was the New Year's party from 2011. Remus and Elliot were smashed. Remus was usually always drunk, one way or another, but I remember everyone being filled with shock the night because Elliot was drinking. He was usually the most good out of the 4 of us. We couldn't imagine him even going near the booze until that night. I looked up, tears starting to fill my vision once again as I remember why I was even here. Staying in Virgil's room was probably not the best idea for now. Thomas does need to stay strong, ergo strong urge to lie and deny things. Roman Virgil was almost on the brink of dying after his morality died. There was a couple more things on the list, so I needed to hurry. I had to rush to the bathroom and grab an ice pack, left shift sitting there. This is something Logan created for Virgil. He would always get long-lasting headaches back when Thomas was starting his YouTube career. He made a never not chill ice pack, since the cold always died down within 30 minutes of him using the regular ice pack. The only reason I knew all of this backstory is because Roman always had to know about everything going on. Roman and Remus are connected, so Remus knew and relayed information to me. Where I had the option to ruin his life with it, help him, or pretend like I didn't even know. I often went with the last option. I took my hat and placed the smaller items within it and carried the larger things between my arms. I walked back to the room as fast as I could without dropping a single thing out of my arms. I made it to the door and opened the door swiftly as I could without making too much noise or movement to disturb Virgil. He seemed to be asleep. He was still, and his breathing, though
He was not back to normal. He was a lot better than what he was when I left. The only downside is that the glitching was still in effect, that the quality of looking at him was like a seizure warning. I placed the items next to Logan, and he pulled me close to a whisper so we wouldn't disturb Virgil. It seemed like Virgil had calmed himself down, but something still has not calmed down with an anxiety, which is causing him to glitch. Thank you for the help today, Deceit. But because Virgil gets anxious whenever you show up, I think it would be best if you left. I can see Virgil wants to talk to you later once he is calm and wakes up, but for right now, it might be best for his well-being if you were not around. The statement packed a punch, mostly throwing me back for a second, but I understood completely. I nodded my head, tipped my hat, and walked out the door with a single bloodstream leaving my eye. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this book, good for you. Well, this next 6 chapters. If you enjoyed the next 6 chapters, good for you. Like I said in the description, there is a link to all the books I have read for Wattpad or Aloud. It is on a list on my Wattpad. There are 13 books on there, which kind of surprises me. Like, I have read 13 books on this series. What? It's kind of hard to comprehend. But still. Just thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I really hope you like the book. I still think it's cringy, but that's probably because I'm the one that wrote it. And stay hydrated. Staying hydrated is very good. Relax. School's in session. Most of you guys are probably back to work if you have work because COVID died down a bit as long as you're wearing a mask. And like always, do your best.